Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's Facebook Live. It's great to be here and thank you to Anna once again for inviting me to speak to you all about the topic of avoiding burnout as an entrepreneur. So quite a lot to get through on this topic and a very, very meaningful and important topic as well. So I hope that some of you can join me live tonight, and for those of you who are going to catch the replay of this, please do feel free to ask any questions that you have by posting in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer and help in any way that I can. So to give you a bit of context about who I am and what I do, my name is Tania Diggory and I am the founder and director of Karma, which is a business that supports entrepreneurs and purposeful organisations with nurturing good mental well-being. So we do this through a variety of services, including workplace training, workshops, events, programs. We also do digital courses and then one-to-one training as well. So we're really passionate about helping improve well-being for entrepreneurs and business teams, because we're in a place now in society where people are working so hard, longer hours, more longer hours than ever before, and we're in a switched on world, aren't we? You know, we're in a digitally switched on 24/7 world. So it really comes down to us in terms of understanding how best we can create healthy boundaries for ourselves and look after ourselves whilst we do the work that we love to do. So I can see that some people are starting to join the call. Hello, please feel free to introduce yourself and let me know who's on the call today. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. And it's great to be here. So I think we'll get started. So today we are exploring the topic of how you avoid burnout as an entrepreneur. Now, to start with, it would be great to just get an idea, of those of you who are joining the call, of what you think burnout really means. So for you, how would you describe burnout? What words would you use or phrases to describe what this actually means? What I'm finding myself is that there is a lot of talk around stress and burnout, but actually how many people really understand what it means? And most importantly, what it means for yourself. How does it manifest in your body? That's really, really key, because everybody experiences stress and burnout in different ways. So getting to understand yourself on a deeper level and ensuring that you get how it feels in your body is a really important first step, because that's how when you do that, you can recognize when it's all getting a bit too much and when you can take a step back and take a look at what's going on. So what does stress or burnout mean to you? For me, and the reason that I set up Karma in the first place was down to personal experience. So just to give you a very quick overview of my story, is that I've been a business owner since 2010, and I've been through 3 different transitions during that time as a business owner, run 3 different businesses. And we've got Angela joining. Hello, thank you so much. And for you, one of the words you'd use is perpetual exhaustion. My goodness, that is a great way to describe it. So yes, that's very key. That real key word there, exhaustion. It's when you feel completely depleted of energy. So that's great. Thank you for contributing that, Angela. So I'll get on to describing the difference between stress and burnout very shortly. But just to give you a quick overview, I personally was never somebody who really considered my mental health and well-being until it was too late. So as I mentioned before, I was a business owner, I have been a business owner for 3 years, and when I was running my second business, I kept going. You know, I'd gone through this big transition of being a one-woman band to now managing a team of people. I was running international events. We were handling bigger sponsors, partners, you know, venues, you name it. We hit on a real niche in our industry, and we were bringing over really amazing people, and we had people from all over the world attending our festivals, which was amazing. But on the outside, we looked really successful, though on the inside, I was really struggling. And this is the thing, I never really considered myself as someone who needed to look after their mental health, because I'd always felt really positive, had a positive outlook on life, and therefore didn't feel like I had to manage my well-being because I had a positive mindset, right? I wonder if that's been your experience too, those of you who are listening in or watching this as a replay later. And the thing is, for me, I hadn't really got to grips with what stress and burnout really meant for me. And the danger with that is that when you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you push yourself to such a limit that you're not even aware of what that limit is or how those symptoms are flaring up in your body. So that's what happened. I went through high levels of stress, just kept building and building, eventually reached the point of burnout, then went through a period of depression and anxiety attacks on and off for about a year. So this is an experience that I overcame within a 1 to 2 year period. And a big reason as to why I set up Karma, you know, for me, things like NLP, understanding mindfulness, well-being, learning about what a work-life alignment meant for me, because it's different for everyone. And it's that real personal journey to go down to understand what it feels like for you in order for you to really get a solid understanding of what burnout means, what stress, and how you can manage it really effectively. So, Angela's just said, I've always tended to think I'm invincible. Yes, I think a lot of us do. A lot of us go down that route. It's totally natural. And, you know, we want to be the best that we can, right? So sometimes we can understandably like fall into this cycle of just trying to do the maximum amount without really getting an understanding of how stress may be manifesting in our body. So I've now got to a place where I haven't been through a panic attack in 3 years, having gone through it regularly within a year. So that just goes to show the power of the mind and how strengthening your mindset is like strengthening a mental muscle. Just like with physical exercise, when you want to get physically fit, you exercise your physical muscles. It's the same thing with your mental health, you know, exercising that mental muscle, getting, you know, giving yourself the time and ensuring that you're persevering and you're patient with yourself to really understand yourself on a deep level. So that gives you just a bit of a background into my story, and I write about this a lot, and it's on my website, etc. But it's just something I wanted to give a bit of context about, because there may be some of you who are joining this call who perhaps feel like, I don't really quite get what burnout is, or I haven't really, you know, reached that point, or I may have reached that point, but I don't really understand how it feels in my body. Apologies, I got something in my eye. Oh dear, sorry. So that's really common. Like Angela said, that feeling of invincibility, right? So you just sort of keep going and do the best that you can, and you're not realizing that actually, you know, you've gone past that point, you've reached your limit. So when we look at stress, sometimes stress can be good for us, and the way that stress manifests in our body is that a chemical is released in the brain called cortisol, and a surge of adrenaline pumps through the body. Now, that cortisol release, it's natural, you know, and there are some helpful points to how stress can manifest in our body. It can help motivate us, it can help us focus in the moment, it can help us take on a challenge, and actually there can be an outcome of feeling pretty proud of yourself when you've overcome a challenge, right? Also, little bits of stress maybe go through us throughout the day if we're sort of moving at a pace, but actually it's understanding when to slow things down. So there's this balance, but there are lots of ways that it manifests in our body. And where you're looking at burnout, it's when, you know, a little bit of stress could be good for you, but when stress starts to build, there may be a sort of a midpoint where you feel, you know, things are actually really getting to me. Maybe I need to do something about this, or, you know, push the brakes, you know, hold it back a little bit. But then if we keep going, we keep pushing ourselves to reach our absolute limit, it's when you reach that place of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. So it's almost like a car running with no fuel. You feel depleted of energy, like there's nothing left to give. And if you go beyond that, you know, without getting support or help or asking for someone to, you know, really help you in that moment, and you're just keeping it in, holding it in, not speaking to anyone about it, and just trying to keep going still, that's when it can develop into something even more serious. Because here's the thing, we can maybe kid other people sometimes and, you know, pretend like everything's okay, but we can't kid our bodies. We're human beings at the end of the day, not human doings, right? We're not created to just be doing all the time like robots. We do need time to switch off, recharge, reflect, and reassess how things are going, right? It's not good for our state of well-being if we're constantly in a state of stress. In fact, any state of being, whether it's in a low state of depression, a state of stress, or a really high state of euphoria and excitement, our body can't handle such a high surge of hormone, whether it's one or the other, a positive hormone or a stress hormone, okay? So it needs a balance and regulating that balance. So if we're pushing ourselves to an extreme and a limit where we're constantly feeling like this, then it's going to have an impact on our physical health. There's a growing abundance of research that shows the mind-body connection is so interlinked. It is so strong, okay? Because our mental, physical, and our emotional well-being is all interlinked. because this is one entity, yeah? It all exists within your body. It's not necessarily true that you could be thriving mentally but then really struggling physically, or vice versa, yeah? Have you ever had an experience where perhaps if you've gone for a routine of feeling really fit and healthy, you know, working out a lot, getting good nutrition, having good routine going, and then suddenly you have an injury and then you're out of action for a few weeks? Could that affect your mental health? How you feel in your body? Absolutely. So first of all, getting to understand that is really important. The fact that our physical and our mental and emotional health is all interlinked. So the neurotransmitters that send different signals to different parts of the body from the brain, you know, it's all interlinked all the time. And, you know, could you recall a time when you felt really stressed, and how does that feel in your body? Do you feel tension? Do you feel like your heart rate picks up more? Do you feel like there's an ache, or, you know, achy bones or muscles? Do you feel like there's this, you know, knot in your stomach feeling? Do you feel like, you know, you need to get a regular breathing rhythm going, your breathing feels constricted, or you feel like a bit shaky or sweaty? So our body responds when we're feeling stressed, right? So our mental and physical health connects. Equally, when you're feeling really happy, relaxed, having a great time, there's a more relaxed feel, yeah? You don't necessarily feel tense. You don't feel like your heart's racing. Everything feels like it's more at a neutral level. So the way that the mind and the body works is incredibly interlinked. And there's a documentary I'd really recommend on this topic if you're interested to know more about this. And it's called Heal, and it's on Netflix. So I'm not sure if they've aired it anywhere else, but it's definitely a Netflix documentary. So if you're interested in that topic, it is fascinating. They interview world thought leaders in the space of the mind-body connection. So doctors, medical practitioners, holistic therapists, so all different walks of life in this space. And they all talk about essentially how the mind heals the body, how it has the power to heal the body. So, okay, so Angela is saying you can relate to this from previous experience. That's great. I'm pleased that you can relate to what I'm saying, and you know, hopefully what I talk about now in terms of how we avoid burnout can be helpful for you too. And please feel free to ask any questions that you have as well. Okay, so I hope that's making sense. Everything that I'm sharing in terms of understanding that scale, and it really is like a scale. You know, there's this stress part here. There's a build up, maybe a middle point in that scale of, okay, I'm noticing it's building, and then when you reach your limit, burnout, and then it could develop into something more serious, mentally speaking, physically speaking, if not tended to. Now, when we go through stress, our brain has an automatic response in the amygdala part of our brain back here, which is also known as the fight, flight, or freeze response. So it's this survival instinct mechanism that we've got ingrained in us, that we've had for thousands of years within the human race, where when we face something that we either register as a threat or dangerous or stressful, we have this fight, flight, or freeze automatic response within our brain, okay, when that cortisol is released. And it means you either face the situation head on, you face the challenge, you do something about it, you either run away from the situation, you just want to retreat, pretend it's not happening, right? So fight, face it. Flight, you want to run away from it, and then freeze. This part sometimes gets missed out. You might often hear fight or flight response, but actually freeze is also really important. So if you have that picture of a rabbit caught in headlights, so it's just wandering across the road and then suddenly a car comes and it freezes on the spot. So this part of the brain is often referred to as the chimp part of the brain, or the reptile, because researchers have also found that it's a similar stress response in human brains as there is in animal brains as well. So it's interesting. So a lot of animals have this similar response as well, like fight, flight, or freeze. So that's why the rabbit caught in headlight visual always sticks with me when I think of the freeze response. And as humans, we may find that sometimes we're just in a situation where we're just like, okay, I actually have no idea how to respond in this moment. I just feel kind of stuck in my stress response. So the more we get to understand this about ourselves on an individual level, is really, really key. It's really important, because every single person is different. What stresses one person out might not stress another, yeah, and vice versa. So yeah, how do we go about avoiding burnout? That's what we're going to explore now. So Angela, you're saying one of the things I found when I reached burnout last year was that I didn't recognise the signs soon enough. I can see now that there were small things that weren't right from quite a while before. Wow, that's really insightful, isn't it? And you know, you're not alone. There's so many people reach burnout because they have really pushed themselves to the limit, and there are signs that they didn't pick up on or recognize. So I'm going to go through a few signs and symptoms, like common signs and symptoms of high stress, high levels of stress that could lead to burnout. And then perhaps have a little reflection point on what that could mean for you, or if any of those ring a bell for you in terms of things that you've experienced in the past too. And you could really look at these signs and symptoms as your body's way of signaling to you to pay attention, because your body has a phenomenally smart way of really knowing what you need to do, right? Have you ever had an experience where you felt like, oh, you know, I really don't think it's a good idea to do this. I can't put my finger on it, but just something doesn't feel right. So your body is telling you in some way, unconsciously, so it's not necessarily a conscious thing, but there's something deep-rooted, whether it's a memory, whether it's a recall, whether it's something that you've been through in your life, perhaps has taught you a valuable lesson and it's been stored in your memory, but then it could be coming up, you know, in that moment to signal to you, something doesn't feel right. I can't put my finger on it, but I just feel like I shouldn't go through this. And two options: either you do go through with it and then later you're like, I wish I'd listened to myself, or you don't go through with it and then you're like, oh, I'm really pleased that I didn't. I feel that was the right thing to do. Does that make sense? So there's different ways, whether it's psychologically or whether it's physiologically, our body has a really smart way of telling us when to pay attention to something that's really important. So physically speaking, like anxiety and high stress levels can manifest in any part of the body, and it affects any system of the body too. For example, our brain and our digestive system share similar chemicals. So if you might be thinking, oh, have I eaten something dodgy today? My stomach feels really off. It could be that you're just psychologically going through a lot of worrying thoughts, and then that's affecting your digestive system. It's creating tension. And this is the thing, when we're highly stressed, we can create tension and hold tension in different parts of our body. So other symptoms can be having aches and pains in different muscles and joints in any part of the body that isn't usually there, like it's just suddenly coming up. You can feel quite sick and nauseous, have a high number of, like I say, wearing thoughts, which maybe then can create like headaches, you know, tension or chronic headaches, feeling quite sweaty or shaky, feeling your heart pound, you know, having difficulty breathing, that kind of restrictedness. And if you're going through a lot and you've got a lot of wearing thoughts going through your mind, it can be difficult to switch off at night, right? So then it can affect the quality of your sleep. And there's an abundance of research out there today that demonstrates why sleep is so important. And in a very simple way, our brain is taking in millions of bits of data per second, and we're only consciously aware of thousands of bits of data, right? It varies in terms of, depending on which research you discover, but ultimately it's that vast amount. Millions of bits of data unconsciously is being stored in our memory, but thousands of bits of data is what we're consciously choosing to focus on at any given time. So we select what we focus on, right? But it's a lot for our brain to take on. Like, our brain never really switches off, right? You've got your awake state and then your sleeping state. And in your sleeping state, it's your brain's time to really take in all the information it's absorbed throughout the day. You have sleep cycles, you know, of processing your thoughts, experiences, and very often you'll find your dreams are a reflection, sometimes a quirky or strange reflection of your life, right? What's going on in your life in different representations in quirky ways, or sometimes really vivid ways. So it's your brain needing that time to do the work for you, to store what's happened throughout the day, to find answers, to sort through, to help give you that answer that you need the next day for something important. So if we're lacking in quality sleep, it can actually really impair our cognitive skills the next day, you know, our ability to concentrate effectively, to focus. So when you're looking at your well-being, you know, if you're struggling with sleep, whether it's insomnia or something else, there are lots of different types of sleeping disorders. That can affect how you feel and how you function on a day-to-day basis and can increase stress levels. Okay, so in terms of, from that perspective then, you could become quite highly sensitive to situations, become perhaps a bit more reactive to situations rather than responsive and taking time to respond. You just react in the moment. Okay, so there are different physical, psychological and behavioural aspects of when you're stressed. So when you're going through a time where you feel quite stressed, consider those kind of symptoms. There's lots of different symptoms and they're just, you know, a selection of different ones. So Hi, Denise. Thank you for joining us. Sue said sleep quality. What is that? Okay, so if you're struggling with sleep, it might be worth seeing a sleep coach. Going to see a sleep specialist about what's going on. Somebody I highly recommend and who we had the pleasure of inviting to our event last week is a lady called Beatrix Schmidt, and she's the author of the book called The Sleep Deep Method. And she used to previously struggle with insomnia in a really profound way, and now she is just sleep expert, and she coaches and helps people on getting amazing sleep, but most importantly understanding from your lifestyle what good sleep means to you, because the average amount of sleep generally fluctuates from 7 to 9 hours depending on the individual of good quality sleep, but it can vary and it depends on you. And one of the best bits of research I heard once was if you weren't setting an alarm and you just went to bed, whenever you naturally wake up the next day is how much sleep your body needs, right? So lots of different ways to look into it, but I'd highly recommend looking into Beatrix's work. So you can find her on LinkedIn, on her website. The Sleep Deep Method is her book. Otherwise, there's the Sleep Show, which travels in the UK. I'm not sure how many people in this group are international, so that might not be relevant for you. Otherwise, there is lots of resources online for sleep these days and how to get great sleep. So I think I've just got into a very bad hanky. I've created this, I think. Yeah, you said habit, not hanky. So I got into a very bad habit. Okay, and that's really empowering for you to say, I think I've created this, which, what does that mean? You've got a choice. So if you feel you've created it, then you can do something about it. Yeah, so just as you've got into this pattern, it's a human experience. We all go through different patterns, and sometimes some patterns aren't as helpful as others. So recognizing when it's not a great pattern and you want to do something about it, brilliant. That's great noticing, okay? So I'd really encourage you to take some time for yourself, to give yourself permission after this call today, whenever you can, as soon as you can, to really take some time to think about what good habits you can get into and who you can speak to, perhaps if you want some further support and sleep advice. So let's talk about a few things that we can do for avoiding burnout. So we've really explored quite in depth around the stress response in the brain, how we all feel stressed differently. I've gone through different signs and symptoms in the body, physically, mentally, emotionally, and how that can affect you and your health. And we've talked about burnout and how it is that exhaustion stage, much like Angela commented on at the beginning of this call. So understanding that's a scale, and really the most important point is, okay, a little bit of stress, I understand it can be good, it can be good for me sometimes. That's a helpful mindset. But, recognizing when you've got to that point, before it reaches burnout, you started to realize your body's sending you signals, really important point to intervene, to do something about it, okay? No problem, Angela. I'm glad that's helpful for you. And Denise, thank you for your comments. Okay, so it's about prevention, escalation, because stress is a universal experience. Everyone goes through stress from time to time, and it's part of the human body's response. And actually, it's helpful for us. It also is the same stress response in the brain that signals to us when we're actually in danger and our life is threatened. Okay, so we do need that. It's very important. It's just managing it. Okay, and it's a process. So I'm going to go through a little mantra with you all. Something that we talk about in my business Karma, and it's called Stop, Breathe, and Trust. Okay, so a really simple mantra to remember, easy to recall, hopefully. That's part of the reason that we created this, and then there's meaning behind each one. So sometimes in our busy day-to-day lives, we find it difficult to just stop and take stock of your well-being. Do we find that sometimes? So Denise just saying, it's my job, it doesn't help, it changes 4 weeks. Today I've sacked my boss. Right, okay, so yes, so we all go through different challenges with our work. I hear you. The most important thing to remember is that we always have choice. Sometimes when we're feeling disempowered, when we're going through a lot, it can feel really challenging to recall and remember that I have a choice in this situation, whether it's something I can control and do something about, or if I can't control the circumstances, actually, I can always control my approach to the situation. I can always take a look at my mindset and my thinking patterns around this. And if they're not working for me, if they're hindering me and holding me back, I can change that, right? So yeah, understanding that also can be really, really helpful. So it is difficult sometimes to really stop and take stock of our well-being. An exercise you could do is really think about, what makes me happy, what keeps me centered, what gives me a sense of balance. Because very often if we feel like things are off kilter and we've just got a lot of things that are going on that are creating a lot of stress, then actually coming back to that centered place of, okay, well, what keeps me feeling centered, right? So I promise you, the more I train, the more I help people through our services at Karma, the more I realise the smallest things go a very, very long way. Guaranteed. So sometimes just the smallest little mantras, the smallest ideas, the smallest exercises that I say the word small because they might seem simple, but sometimes honestly it's the simplest things that really, really help us and that are most powerful, right? It's not complicated, it's not convoluted, it's human experience, yeah? So really thinking about getting a deep sense of awareness of what makes me happy, what keeps me feeling really centered, because sometimes just getting that back into balance a little bit can be really helpful. Like, for example, have I been on walks recently? Have I gotten a lot of fresh air? Have I spent time with loved ones? Have I been exercising? It's been clinically proven that by being active and having regular exercise, it's been clinically proven that it can reduce feelings of mild to moderate depression as much as antidepressants do. So not only you're getting physically fit, but actually it releases a lot of positive chemicals and hormones in the brain like oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, and we feel good when we exercise and when we're keeping active. That doesn't mean having to go to the gym if that's not your thing, but actually getting nice brisk walks, getting fresh air into your lungs, taking classes, if you're decorating your house, that's very active, but just keeping active, really important. So recalling whatever it is for you, have I meditated recently? Have I taken time for myself? Have I been reading? Whatever it is that really brings things back into a sense of balance for you. So have a think about that, and that can be a really great starting point, yeah? But the most important thing is stop. When you feel highly stressed, hopefully not even getting to that point of highly stressed, you notice that it's rising, that actually it's getting slightly away from it being a bit of good stress that can be helpful for you, can signal something helpful, can motivate you, etc., to actually this is becoming a bit much. I feel like my body is starting to respond in a negative way. I feel like these signs and symptoms are coming back. I feel a tightness in my chest, or I feel like my heart rate's picking up a little bit, or I feel a sense of out of control. Give yourself permission to just stop. Because otherwise, what's the alternative? If you don't stop, if you just keep going, what does that look like? Do you just end up reaching your limit? Do you end up going through burnout, as we defined earlier? Mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion. Not a fun place to be in at all, okay? So it's within your control. When you talk about having a sense of control, you do have the control to take an empowered choice. Take a moment, take a step back, stop what you're doing, even just 5-10 minutes of reflection, to give your brain the headspace and quiet it needs to really think about what step you want to take next. If we're constantly crowding our mind and our brain with information overload and never stopping to just, have a bit of calm in our lives, don't you find those moments of calm can sometimes be where your inspiration strikes, where you suddenly have the answers come to you that you've been looking for a while? That's what I need to do, right? So it just suddenly comes to you because you've given yourself the headspace and a bit of quiet to just get calm and connect to the moment, getting out of all the chaos that might be going around you, that you feel is going on around you. Which leads me on to my next point. Breathe. There are so many benefits to breathing, and there are lots of different breathing exercises that you can practice these days. And this is why meditation, mindfulness, different well-being initiatives are becoming so popular. So the Global Wellness Institute recently cited that the global wellness market, the size of the global wellness market, is 3 times the size of the pharmaceutical industry. That is amazing, isn't it? When you think of the size of the pharmaceutical industry and what it generates, that's the main thing, it's what it generates. And this, compared to the actual size of the wellness market, it's just incredible, because more and more people are realising and recognising and understanding that they can take a lot of power back into their own hands in terms of taking care of their well-being. So So, Angela, you're agreeing that absolutely the best things come during the gaps. Yes, absolutely. Honestly, I mean, how can you expect yourself to have moments of inspiration and really, reflect on what you've learnt, from whatever you're going through, whatever's happening at the moment, if you're constantly crowding your mind with loads of thoughts and different things that you're doing and actively taking part in, and then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, actually just giving yourself time to enjoy those gaps and those moments. Yeah, so I'm pleased that you find that works for you too. So that's why meditation and breathing exercises can really help. So there's a massive benefit to the wellness industry at the moment, and people really realizing that they can take the power into their own hands to take care of their well-being. So there are different breathing techniques, and I'm going to explain to you a few of the benefits of breathing, because sometimes you might hear people say like, oh, just breathe through it, just breathe. But then you might not really be understanding, why is it such a big deal? I breathe every day, right? I breathe all the time. I need to breathe to stay alive. But it's the consciousness of what you're doing in that breath, right? So it's taking conscious deep breathing rhythms through your nose and out through your nose or mouth, whatever feels most comfortable. And if you really prefer to breathe through your mouth, then there's specific techniques that helps the breath access deeper into the diaphragm. So sometimes when you breathe through your mouth just like this, you tend to feel that it accesses the chest area, maybe a bit into the stomach, but kind of this region here. Whereas when you take a deep, slow breath through your nose and then release, it's a lot more controlled, calmer, but it really goes deep into your diaphragm. Not only that, it expands your lung capacity, so it also increases the oxygen supply to the brain, which helps you to focus more in the moment, improves your respiratory system, and most importantly, calms down your nervous system. So if you're feeling quite nervous about whatever you're going through, taking some deep breathing rhythms through your nose can really help to bring you back into the moment, to be present, to focus on what's real and not what might have become a bit of a chaos or a delusion of thoughts, worrying thoughts that aren't necessarily true of reality. You're just worrying about what's going on, right? We can easily fall into that pattern. So it's not to say those worries aren't valid. They can be absolutely valid worries, but also they can be quite debilitating if they're just going around in circles. So it helps you to just calm and bring yourself into the moment. So the point about breathing through your mouth, if you breathe like you're sucking through a straw, that can get a deeper access into the diaphragm as well, if you prefer that. But a lot of professional meditators will express an interest in really breathing through the nose if you can, and getting that deep breath if you feel comfortable doing that. So you're giving your body the correct amount of oxygen supply that it needs. If you haven't been breathing properly and you've been going from one thing to another like this, oh God, I've got to do this next. Oh God, I can't believe you said that. Oh my God, I've got to do this on my to-do list. Do you ever find yourself doing that, where you're just having this kind of restricted breathing rhythms and actually feel a little bit lightheaded? That's another thing. When you breathe through your nose, you just feel like it floats through your mind, actually your brain. I mean, it actually fills your body a bit more with breath and helps to calm things down. So breathing, just being really aware and conscious of what your breathing rhythm's like in that moment. So you've stopped what you're doing. Now you're focusing on the breathing rhythm, okay? And taking deep breaths in and out and just doing that regularly, a couple of minutes or so. However long it feels for you to just get into that space of calm. Because if you then start making decisions about whatever you're feeling stressed about in a state of panic, do you feel like you're going to have more access to that kind of critical thinking, logical thinking side of the brain? Or are those skills going to perhaps be a bit impaired? Yes, it can be challenging. So, Angela, you're agreeing? Great. Yeah, so I'm pleased to hear that this is resonating with you and helping you. So it can be really easy to just constrict our breathing and not breathe properly. So, trying to get out of a state of panic can be really helpful through conscious breathing rhythms, okay? And just a few minutes, you can really notice the difference. So, you want to make decisions from a place of empowerment, particularly when running a business. So this topic, is especially geared towards how to avoid burnout as an entrepreneur. So you have to make a lot of decisions on a daily basis when it comes to running your business, right? So therefore, if you're coming at those decisions from a place of fear, from a place of overwhelm, from a place of anxiety and stress, Do you think the outcome of those decisions are going to be as effective for your business? So you're doing your business a service by giving yourself permission to pause. Do you see what I'm saying? So stop and breathe and give yourself permission to take that time before even thinking about what decisions you're going to make, what the next step is for you. Just get yourself into a place of calm. Okay, and then moving on to the third step is around trust. Now you've been on this lifelong journey with yourself. No one knows you better than you. Would you agree with that? Okay, so if you think about it, who better to trust fully, wholeheartedly than yourself? Sometimes it can be a little bit skewed in our mindset. If we are feeling panicked about a lot of things, highly stressed, we can lose perspective. Yeah. So again, this stopping and breathing exercise can help you gain that bit more perspective back into the moment, reminding yourself of things like, I have choice. You know, I always have a choice. I make choices big and small every day of my life. I make the choice to get up in the morning. I make the choice to get ready for the day. I make the choice to run a business. Not everyone makes that choice in their life, right? It's a very particular mindset, running a business and being an entrepreneur. You know, I make the choice to go out and seize the day. I make the choice to build new partnerships. I make the choice to find new clients. I'm making the choice to market my business. I make the choice to leave my corporate 9-to-5 and do what I love to do for a living. Might not always be easy, but it's my choice, right? It's my choice. So always come back to that place before making a decision of any importance, particularly of any weight, you know, when it comes to growing your business and looking after yourself, because essentially your business is an extension of you, right? The founder. So you want to show your best and be your best, not only for yourself, but for other people. So when people come to me these days and they say, I'm hearing this a lot for some reason these days, I feel really selfish for taking time for myself. There's so much to do all the time. You know, I've got so much to do, so many people to help. I can't take time for myself. That's just being selfish. Do you find that you fall into a pattern of saying that sometimes? I'm sure we've all been there at one point or another, right? So much to do, not enough time in a day. So many things to take care of, so many people to take care of, but oh, I'm not really taking care of myself. So could we start reframing that and look at it as not a selfish act, but actually it's an incredibly selfless act to take care of yourself, to give yourself permission, right? Whether it's a bit of time here and there, whether it's, 30 minutes here and there, whether it's a day off, whether it's allowing yourself the evenings, with the exception sometimes of maybe working a bit extra, but it's my choice. Again, right, coming back to my choice. So that work-life alignment can happen for you. It's just a series of choices that you need to create for yourself and setting healthy boundaries along the way to avoid it becoming overwhelming, right? So give yourself permission to take time for yourself, okay? Because by doing that, by being at your best for yourself and replenishing your energy levels, taking care of your well-being, you're then taking care of the well-being of your business and the well-being of others around you. Do you know what it feels like to be around someone who's highly stressed? And everything's like this and a bit snappy and the energy's up here. Whew, what kind of feeling do you get from that? And if you're feeling stressed, noticing, oh, was this having an impact on other people, right, around me? Or what about when you are around someone who's practicing keeping calm, practices contentment, practices stress management? What difference do you notice then? So the energy that we give off has an effect on others around us and what we're doing in our day-to-day lives. Now, again, we're human beings, right? Like I said, I go back to that point, really important. We all have our days. We all have our days where maybe we might feel that things are just a little bit off and maybe we do feel a bit snappy. Things are a bit overwhelming, but it doesn't have to remain that way. Like I said earlier, your body can only handle so much of one state for a long period of time. So actually going into and out of different states of being is really healthy. So trust yourself, get back to that space. I know myself better than anyone else in this world. I know what I've been through. I know what my journey has been. I know I have the answers within me. I just need to get a bit quiet, get a bit of headspace. And by breathing and meditating, it doesn't mean clearing your head of any thoughts whatsoever, right? On average, research has shown that we experience around 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, on average, right? That's a lot of thoughts. And even on a great day, not necessarily all those thoughts are going to be helpful to you, right? So being realistic about it is really important. So, just noticing whatever thoughts come and go. can be a really helpful mindfulness practice. So you're getting quiet, you're breathing, you're getting into the space of being in the moment, being present. Switching that up. Right, so not so much through your mouth if you can help it, just breathing through your nose, really getting that oxygen supply circulating through your body in a deep way, okay? And then trusting, so coming back to just being your own best friend, yeah, being your inner champion. So, you know, we have that inner critic that sometimes goes off, but really listen to your inner champion in those moments. You know, you can do this, you can cope, you do have the skills and ability to, you know, manage the situation. Think how far you've come. What have you overcome in your life to get to this point? What have you gone through? What challenges have you overcome? And what rewards have there been? Give yourself some credit, cut yourself some slack, right? So get into that headspace and learn to trust yourself that bit more, to manage the next steps of whatever you're going through in the best way that you can with your own ability, okay? And this takes practice. It's not an overnight thing, yeah? So it's a mindset. So it really takes practice, but isn't it worth it to practice that versus exercising the muscle in the brain that tells you, oh, I don't know if I can do this, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, it's really stressful, you know, I'm failing, whatever it is that can come up sometimes, that imposter syndrome voice that any human being goes through from time to time, yeah? So it's a human experience, and recognizing that is really important. So stop, breathe, and trust. All right, ultimately, trust yourself. And that's not to say that in certain situations, if you feel you just don't have the answer, then trust yourself to make the right decision about who to go to, you know, who to chat to, who to approach, to get that extra support and guidance that you need. It's not about always having the answers ourselves. Some things we will just intuitively know for ourselves, but it's about having the wisdom to know, you know, the difference. Like, okay, this I really believe that I have the answer to this, or this I need a bit of help with. I need to see someone, I need to speak to someone who I trust, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a friend, family member, an entrepreneurial buddy. You know, support network is so valuable and really vital for any entrepreneur journey. Okay, so I hope that that's helped. As a mantra, it can be something that you literally just say within a couple of seconds to yourself. Stop, breathe, trust. You remind yourself what each of those things mean, yeah? Giving yourself permission to do that and coming back into the moment before making decisions about your business and the next steps in your day, okay? So I hope that's been really helpful in terms of understanding the scale of stress to burnout and how we can start to pull it back and avoid burnout before it even gets to that point, right? Recognizing what signs and symptoms may flare up in your body. So lots of things that you can think about from today moving forward. Starting to recognize, how does stress manifest for me? How do I feel it? What do I notice, physically speaking, psychologically speaking, and in my behavior, right? What do I notice? And when does it become a bit of an issue? And when can I give myself permission to stop, to breathe, and to trust myself before making other decisions, right? Not coming from a place of panic or fear, giving myself permission to come from a place of empowerment and self-love, okay? So if you've got any questions to ask, I'd love to hear them. Let me know what you're thinking, what thoughts might be going through your mind at the moment. And what I've shared with you today is also part of a bigger campaign that we're running in my company. So our mission, our global goal, is to reduce the issue of burnout in entrepreneurs and business teams by 10% by 2023. So that's 600,000 entrepreneurs, and we've based that on these statistics in the UK, that there are just under 6 million small businesses in the UK, and we want to reduce the number by 10%, and that's 600,000. So it's in the UK, but we also have this as a global goal. We just want to impact as many lives as possible, and it's free to join. So I will share the link in the comments below after this call, so that you can access that information. You receive a free ambassador pack and ways to get involved in the campaign, to spread the word and try and help us make that impact in the world. And most importantly, you receive a free 10-week e-course giving you burnout prevention strategies just once a week. We don't hound people with emails. So just once a week, you receive an email for 10 weeks giving you a burnout prevention strategy for that week, because we believe it's so important to tackle this issue. There are so many people feeling highly stressed, highly burnt out these days. In fact, stress is currently the most, it's the leading cause of physical illness, which is interesting, isn't it? So a mental health concern in terms of stress, but it's creating a physical illness in the body. Things like chronic fatigue, other chronic illnesses. It's really such an issue right now. So we need to really look at this because it's costing so many businesses their livelihoods, okay? So many business owners their livelihoods, and it's costing more businesses from actually flourishing and being what they really can be. If you think about the journey of entrepreneurship, it is absolutely phenomenal. You know, somebody taking the initiative to really put their ideas out into the world, create something that hasn't been created before, because your vision is unique to you. Even if you're in an industry where lots of people are doing similar things, you will be completely unique, and your approach will be unique, and you will resonate with and gravitate towards people who really, really connect with your message. So never underestimate that. But it's so empowering and powerful to just be creating something new in the world and serving others and helping others, right? It's a strong purpose to that. And how sad is it, and what a shame it will be for more and more businesses to fold, to go under because of high stress, high burnout, not looking after themselves and not taking the time to really take care of themselves and therefore their business. Yeah, so it's becoming a real issue, and it's something that we can do something about. So that's the great takeaway message. So to leave on a positive, is something we can do something about, you know, whether it's our campaign, the Reignite campaign, and getting involved, spreading the word, you know, doing your part. You know, mental health training in workplaces is really growing now, and we're seeing a lot of benefits from training business teams as well as entrepreneurs in terms of our workshops and events. So we are noticing other coaches, consultants running their own events as well to help more people with their well-being, and it's a really exciting time to be in, you know. So always remember, there's always choice. You always have a choice, and you can choose empowerment, okay? You can choose to do something differently if it's not working for you. Does that make sense? Angela, thank you so much. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for staying on this call. I hope you found it really useful, and those who have joined this call as well, the others that have joined today, and anyone who re-watches this later, I hope that you found this really useful. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask me. Like I said, I'll share the link to the Reignite campaign in the comments below, so you're welcome to take a look at that and join in our free campaign and be part of the movement to help people reignite their full potential. So just want to say another thank you to Anna and her lovely team for organising this. It's been an absolute pleasure to come into the group today and to contribute to this lovely community. I know that Anna's done some fantastic work with you all, and is really doing such an amazing job in empowering you all in her own special way as well. Author of that fabulous new book that she launched not long ago. So lots of amazing work she's doing with you all. So wishing you every success, and as I usually say to my community, here's to your inner and outer success. It's not just what people see on the outside all the time, but it's what's inside that counts as well. So what are you doing for your own inner work, and how are you taking care of yourself? Really important. So I'd love to stay connected with those of you who have really connected with my message today, who want to stay in touch. I'd love to chat further with you. You're very welcome to reach out, drop me a message if you want to chat further about anything. And if there's any way that I can help you in your business, please just let me know. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Angela, Denise, anyone else who's joined the call today, whose name I haven't seen yet. And thank you for joining, and wish you all the best in all your ventures, and hope to connect with you again soon. All right, have a wonderful evening or daytime if anyone is tuning in from different parts of the world, and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Take care. Bye.